From the world's most advanced and luxurious ballpark, the Skydome in Toronto, Ontario. ESPN's Baseball Tonight brings you an American League East battle between the Baltimore Orioles and the Toronto Blue Jays. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. I'm Sean McDonough along with Ray Knight. We're delighted to have you with us tonight on ESPN for a battle between two teams that went down to the wire in the American League East last season. Toronto wound up prevailing by 2 games, and Ray, most people think the Blue Jays are the favorite in the East again this year.
Well, Sean, and rightfully so. They have an outstanding pitching staff. They have 5 good starters, but the bullpen is what I like. They have Dwayne Ward out there in the bullpen. They have Tom Hinkie, and they have the left-hander that's just done a tremendous job for them thus far this season. They have a great offense with Fred McGriff at first base and George Bell in left field, capable of hitting 75 to 80 home runs. Good team speed and good defense, so they are the choice for the American League East.
Meanwhile, the Baltimore Orioles hope that they can contend again this year. Nobody expected that they would last year. They improved by 33 games last season. Can they contend this year?
Well, talking to Tommy McGraw, he feels that they're going to hit. Al Jackson feels they're going to pitch, but he says himself that their pitchers do not miss very many bats, so they must play good defense. They must score runs. Mickey Tettleton must have a good year to protect Cal Ripken Jr., so a lot of things have to go right for the Baltimore Orioles this year.
Here is the Sears Die-Hard starting lineup for the Baltimore Orioles in tonight's ball game. Steve Finley will lead off for the Orioles and play right field. Phil Bradley in left field. Cal Ripken, the shortstop. Mickey Tettleton is doing the catching and batting cleanup. Randy Milligan at first base. Mike Devereaux is the center fielder. Craig Worthington at third base. Bob Melvin is the DH batting 8th. And Billy Ripken at second base bats 9th.
And the defense for Toronto Blue Jays tonight, Glenn Allen Hill in right field. Junior Felix moves over to center. George Bell in left field. Kelly Gruber at third base. Tony Fernandez, the shortstop. Manny Lee playing second base tonight. Fred McGriff at first base. Pat Borders the catcher. And veteran Mike Flanagan, the left-hander, is on the mound. Mike Flanagan, 38 years old. You see he's 1-0 this year with 1.80 earned run average. Has a fastball that he moves a lot, a big breaking curveball, a straight changeup, and over the last 7 or 8 years has been probably the most effective left-hander in the major leagues.
And he is set to go to work before a less than capacity crowd here at the Skydome in Toronto, and that is a surprise since the Skydome came into being. Blue Jays have drawn the largest crowds in Major League Baseball. The umpires working tonight's ball game. Al Clark back at the plate. John Hirschbeck at first. Dave Phillips, the crew chief, is at second. And Larry McCoy calls the plays at third. And here's the first pitch of the ball game from Mike Flanagan. The strike. This is Stan Jefferson leading off. He's a late addition to the starting lineup for the Baltimore Orioles. On the original lineup that was posted, Steve Finley was the leadoff hitter. But apparently something has happened to Steve, and Stan Jefferson is getting the start as the leadoff hitter for Baltimore.
Well, Stanley's a switch hitter, runs real well. Played with him in the New York Met organization. Has real good speed, kind of a slap hitter, hits the ball a lot the other way.
Slaps it up the middle. Manny Lee on to Fred McGriff for the first out of the ball game. Phil Bradley will bat next, and he'll be followed by Cal Ripken. Bradley's off to a .227 start. 5 hits, 4 doubles and a single. He's yet to hit a home run, and he has not yet driven in a run. Flanagan misses outside, ball 1.
You'll see a lot of those big breaking curveballs tonight. Mike Flanagan just makes the hitters put the ball in play, takes a little off, adds a little to it, sinker ball. You see, there's that fastball that he turns over away, tries to keep the ball out of the heart of the plate.
Flanagan, of course, the former Oriole. And he's in with a strike. 2 balls, 1 strike. 1 out, no score in the ball game at the top of the first, just underway, and we're delighted to have the roof closed for the Skydome tonight. It's -2 here in Toronto. That, of course, is Celsius. That's about 30 degrees Fahrenheit outside the Skydome at the moment. And the 2-2 pitch is fouled straight back. Still 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Phil Bradley, he likes the ball out over the plate away from him. Pitchers tend to bust him inside when they get ahead of him. He's got that kind of swing that inside out's the ball the opposite way, and Toronto Blue Jays are shading him to right field.
Fly ball and a routine play for Junior Felix, the center fielder. Cito Gaston beginning his first full season as manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. His ball club is off to a 5-3 start. They've won 4 of their last 5 coming into tonight's game, including yesterday afternoon's game 1 of this series with the Orioles. Cal Ripken at 250, a homer and 6 RBI. Flanagan bounced the first pitch to him off the plate.
You know, interesting thing about Cal, I was talking to Tommy McGraw, the hitting coach, and I always thought Cal liked the ball out over the plate. When I played with him, played against him, we felt that he was off the plate due to the fact that he didn't like the ball inside. But Tommy McGraw said he's gotten where he likes to look for that pitch inside, and we saw an indication of that last night when he got a fastball and hit it into the second deck.
Flanagan's in with a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2 outs, bases empty. Top of the first inning. Little pop-up off first base. Fred McGriff over toward the rail. Reaches in. And he made the catch. A terrific play to end the inning. And Cal Ripken will not score another run to move out of that 3rd place tie on the Orioles all-time run list. He's currently tied with Boog Powell. Mike Flanagan helped out by Fred McGriff. 1, 2, 3 for the Orioles in the top of the 1st. Now here's tonight's Sears Die-Hard starting lineup for the Toronto Blue Jays. Tony Fernandez, the shortstop, is the leadoff hitter tonight. Mookie Wilson batting second as the DH. Kelly Gruber at third base. George Bell batting cleanup in left field. Fred McGriff at first base. Glenn Allen Hill is in right field. Pat Borders is doing the catching and batting seventh. Manny Lee is the second baseman. And Junior Felix in center field bats ninth. No score as we go to the bottom of the 1st inning. Mike Flanagan retired the Orioles in order, and he's opposed tonight by left-hander Jeff Ballard.
Jeff Ballard, 6'2", 198 pounds, went to Stanford University, spots the ball. He throws about 17 to 20 ground balls a game, so if you start seeing fly balls, you know that he's not on his game. Throws a little curve ball and a slider and a changeup that he turns over, and an occasional fork ball that he throws that's not real hard, but it just shows to the hitters.
Jeff lost his first outing of the season. That was 6 days ago at Kansas City. He gave up hits to 3 of the first 5 batters he faced and then settled down, retired the next 10 Royals. Had a 1-0 lead at one point in that ball game, but he tired and was unable to complete the 5th inning. Pitching coach Al Jackson said they'd like 6 innings tonight from Jeff Ballard, but they won't have him on any kind of a pitch count. They'll play it by ear, see how Jeff feels, and they'll make their decision from the dugout as to how he's throwing. Let's take a look now at the defense tonight for the Baltimore Orioles.
Stanley Jefferson, the leading replacement for Steve Finley in right field. Mike Devereaux in center. Phil Bradley in left field. Craig Worthington, the third baseman. Cal Ripken Jr., the shortstop. Billy Ripken, second baseman. Randy Milligan, the first baseman. Mickey Tettleton, the catcher. And Jeff Ballard, the pitcher.
And Tony Fernandez to lead off. The switch hitter batting from the right side against the lefty Ballard. Checks into the ball game at 3-13. He's driven in 2 runs. And he fouls the first pitch straight back for strike 1. Tony this season is at 250 from the right side of the plate. and 333 from the left. He's only been up 8 times from the right with 2 hits, both of them singles. Inside is Ballard. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Tony Fernandez, left-hander, reminds me a lot of Rod Carew, how lightly he caresses that bat. He's a very relaxed hitter, lines the ball all over the ballpark, hits the ball extremely hard. As you see his hands right there, watch how loosely he grips the bat. Almost caresses that bat.
Pitch is low, 3 balls and 1 strike. Now, why, Ray, would a hitter do that?
Well, some guys relax. They always teach you to have real soft hands, real relaxed hands, and then your hands will tense up when they explode on the ball. A lot of guys get tight in there, and as a result, it slows them down. They try to muscle the ball, and I think Tony learned that early in his career, and he does as well as anybody I've seen.
Jeff Ballard walked him on 5 pitches. Ballard doesn't walk many. He also doesn't strike out many. See the number of walks per 9 innings last year, only 2.4. That is also very close to his number for strikeouts per 9 innings. Both Ballard and Flanagan will make the opposition put the ball in play. They have 2 of the best defensive teams in baseball behind them. Mookie Wilson looks at a ball.
Take that a little farther, Sean. We saw the note where they were ranked 1 and 2 in the American League, least strikeouts per 9 innings. Ballard 2.59 Ks per 9 innings, and Flanagan 2.46. So we're going to see a lot of balls put in play tonight.
Fernandez back safely on the toss to first. Tony has already stolen a base, but he's been caught twice trying to steal.
And Mookie's certainly a guy that'll put the ball in play. He's a slasher or a hacker. He goes up there looking for a pitch to hit. Very aggressive hitter.
Wilson off to just a .226 start. He's seen time in center field and as the DH. Blue Jays hope that young John Olerud, just out of Washington State, will be able to handle the DH role. He's a left-handed hitter and not in there against the tough lefty Jeff Ballard. Olerud has been struggling at the plate. Carries a 143 average into tonight's game. And John's watching from the dugout. No score. We're in the bottom of the first. The Blue Jays have the lead runner Fernandez at first base. And he draws still another throw.
If you're wondering, Tony stole 22 out of 28 bases last year, so he is a threat to go, especially leading off. He didn't steal as many bases when he hit third. Moved into that #1 slot.
Double play ball hit right to Billy Ripken. To brother Cal and on to Milligan for the 4-6-3 double play. Two outs and the base is empty now for the Blue Jays in the bottom of the first. No score in the ball game. And that'll bring up Kelly Gruber, who has certainly begun to establish himself as one of the best players in baseball. This season he's off to a .310 start. 1 homer and he's driven in 6. Cal Ripken throws him out. And that's all for Toronto in the bottom of the first. After 1 inning at the Skydome in Toronto, no score.
We'll get back to Toronto Skydome in a moment, but first at the corner of Michigan and Trumbull, Tiger Stadium, the Yankees and the Tigers. Frank Tanana facing Don Mattingly, jerks this one out to right field. 1 hopper off the wall. Gary Ward comes up throwing. Mattingly's going for 2. Alan Trammell's there to apply the tag, and they're out of it. Let's get it back to Sean and Ray.
And we have no score as well here in Toronto as we move to the second. Each pitcher faced the minimum 3 batters in the first inning. So it's the middle third for the Orioles in the top of the second. Mickey Tettleton, the catcher. Switch hitter batting 143 this season. No homers, and he's yet to drive in a run. Mickey's 1 for 3 from the right side of the plate this year. opposed to 1 for 11 from the left side. Ray, I think those people who are cynical about the Orioles and their chances to contend again this year would say that last year almost every single player on the Orioles had a career type year, most especially Mickey Tettleton. And how could he possibly duplicate what he did a year ago?
Well, Mickey just said to us that the fact that he got to play enabled his ability to come out, and he feels like it wasn't an aberration that he can go out and hit 20 home runs this year, and he expects to do that. So I think that Mickey Tettleton learned a lot about hitting last year, and the fact that playing and getting the confidence of Blake Robinson, knowing he's going to be in the lineup every day, he's going to be a factor for this ball club.
And he's out on the comeback to the mound. Frank Robinson saw his club complete a dramatic turnaround last year. They improved by 33 games, finished second in the American League East at 87 and 75, just 2 games behind the Toronto Blue Jays. Randy Milligan, one of the few Orioles off to a strong start at the plate. You saw his numbers at .348 batting average. Count is 1-0 to Randy. That's as compared to the Orioles team batting average coming into tonight of .238. Fastball from Flanagan. Found the outside corner. 1 ball and 1 strike.
And Sean, Randy likes the ball down. Tom McGraw, the hitting coach, says that you cannot throw the ball too low for Randy. He likes the ball down, likes breaking balls. You see him fight that fastball up off. You can bet Mike Flanagan knows that he likes to hit that low pitch, and Flanagan a low ball pitcher. Let's just see how he works on Randy Milligan here.
Mike Flanagan, a native of Manchester, New Hampshire, now lives in suburban Baltimore. Little looper down the right field line, slicing into foul territory. Still a ball and 2 strikes. Randy Milligan's a guy who bounced around in a couple of organizations, just waiting for an opportunity to play on a daily basis. So the Mets organization with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Finally got his chance last year. Played first base regularly for the Orioles. Splitting some time with Jim Traver, but he established himself relatively early on as the more productive of the two. The 1-2 pitch, well inside, 2 balls and 2 strikes. That's well outside, and Milligan has dug himself out of the hole. He's gone from 1-2 to 3 balls and 2 strikes. With 1 out and the bases empty at the top of the second, no score.
Let's look in here 3-2 and see how he pitches him. He's going to go away with a fastball.
And he issues ball 4. First walk issued by Flanagan, and that's the first base runner against Mike. Now Mike Devereaux, the center fielder. Just 3 for 20, all 3 hit singles. Milligan not much of a threat to run at first base. He hasn't tried to steal a base this year.
You know, Sean, he was a great minor league base stealer. He stole 117 bases in 132 attempts when he was in low minor leagues. He's a big man, 6'1", 230 pounds. And last year he did steal 9 out of 14 bases, so he will run. Flanagan's a little slow to play, but he has an excellent move to first base.
Lined right at the second baseman Lee. No chance to double off Milligan as he hadn't rambled very far from the bag. Back to the Baseball Tonight studios now, and John Saunders.
Well, Sean, in Pittsburgh, the Cards and the Pirates. Bonds is on second. Jay Bell at the plate lays down the bunt. Matthews doesn't play it very well, so Tim Jones has to chase after it and has to come to the plate. Todd Zeile applies the tag. Too late. The Pirates are up 1-0.
Thank you, John. Here in Toronto, still no score. A hitless ball game to this point. 2 outs in the top of the second. Randy Milligan at first, and the hitter is Craig Worthington, the number 7 hitter in the batting order, and the Orioles' regular third baseman. Well hit up the middle, and the Gold Glover Fernandez could not take it in. Felix does, stopping Milligan at second, and Craig Worthington has the first hit of the ball game.
Craig Worthington loves the fastball. He likes to get it in, but Mike Flanagan gets the fastball out over the plate, and just great extension. Real quick bat on this young man. Head right on the baseball and just drills it out there past Tony Fernandez.
So a couple of hard hit balls back to back. The line drive for an out by Devereaux, the base hit by Worthington. Now here's the DH, Bob Melvin. At 385, a homer, and he's driven in 4. Off-speed pitch to start him. Strike 1.
Well, Bob Melvin has been their most pleasant surprise, the Orioles' most pleasant surprise thus far this season. He's swinging the bat exceptionally well. They've always known that he can catch, but today DHing because of the fact he swung the bat so well.
Chop slowly to short. Fernandez, the short way to lead for the force play that ends the inning. After an inning and a half at Skydome in Toronto, no score.
Hey, good hustle, Tom. Way to go into the stands, babe.
Hey, you really killed yourself out there today, kid.
You don't have to be a major league ball player to need major league pain relief. Ben Gay Sports Balm. Real relief for sore muscles.
Back to Toronto in just a moment's time, but let's check the National League. One team undefeated in the majors, the Cincinnati Reds at 7-0. The only other game with a score, St. Louis and Pittsburgh, all tied up at 1. Brunansky has just tied the game on a sacrifice fly. Let's get back to Sean and Ray.
Thank you, John. Back at the Skydome in Toronto. Sean McDonough along with Ray Knight. No scores. We head to the bottom of the second. Jeff Ballard to face the middle third of the Blue Jay batting order. And George Bell looks at ball 1. Bell's hitting .281. 2 homers. He's driven in 7. Off-speed pitch that nipped the outside corner. 1 ball, 1 strike. Not a bad average over 7 years.
George Bell loves the fastball, likes the ball in. Dead pull hitter.
And the Orioles are playing him to pull. Worthington just a step or 2 off the line down at third base.
There's a look at the defense. See Worthington only a couple steps off. Second baseman almost behind the second base bag. Right fielder way over in right center field.
Well hit to center field. On the run, Devereaux. Back to the warning track. He leaps and makes the catch. Just in front of the 400-foot mark. As George Bell drove it to the deepest part of the ballpark.
Fastball out over the plate. George Bell gets tremendous extension. A little bit under the ball. He hit that ball very high. Got a little bit more of the baseball. That ball would have been out of here about 440 feet.
Now the Orioles go into a pronounced defensive shift for Fred McGriff. Ballard comes in, put the fastball on the first pitch.
Well, Sean, the Orioles use their charts more than any team that I ever played for. They get in there with the pitcher, the catcher, and the outfielders and the infielders.
Griff pulls it down the line. Milligan had to wait for it. Flips on to Ballard, who's a good fielding pitcher, and that's the second out of the inning.
And the pitchers will pitch. Say if Fred McGriff, they're going to pitch him inside. Well, they'll go ahead and pitch him inside. Sometimes, even if it's a strength, play the defense that way and make him hit to the defense's strength. And that's what they do. Cal Ripken moves around better than any shortstop I ever played with. In a recent article, the Toronto Sun, through a poll of the American League managers, said that Cal Ripken was the smartest player in the game as far as baseball sense. And he kind of captains that defense out there.
Glenn Allen Hill, the hitter. He bounces it just foul past third. Well, I understand if McGriff's a full hitter, you pitch him inside, you say, go ahead and pull it, but we're going to defend you that way. I imagine with Fred McGriff, the one negative with the Orioles for that is you cannot position somebody beyond that 375-foot mark in right field, and Fred McGriff hits it out there a lot.
Absolutely, but he also likes the ball out over the plate, the type of guy that can hit it 400 feet the opposite way. So they know if he gets the ball out over the plate, he's more dangerous with that extension. So they'd rather pitch him down and in with those sinkers in hopes he hits the ball on the ground into the teeth of that defense.
Ballard misses outside to Hill. 1 ball and 1 strike. On Alan Hill, considered a top prospect for several seasons of the Blue Jays organization. They're still waiting for him to fulfill his potential, and he's out on the ground ball to short. The Blue Jays go in order in the second, and after 2 at the Skydome, no score.
The Blue Jays and the Orioles are scoreless. Let's check elsewhere in the American League. Only 1 game with a score in it. The Yankees lead the Tigers 1-0. Roberto Kelly with the RBI single. A reminder, Oakland and California. You'll see that one later here on ESPN. Let's get it back to Sean and Ray at Skydome.
Thank you, John. And of course, John Saunders has hundreds of thousands of admirers here in Toronto, his hometown. And John mentioned in passing the second part of our Baseball Tonight doubleheader, the Oakland Athletics taking on the California Angels. Chris Berman and Tommy Hutton standing by. These 2 teams here expected to go down to the wire as contenders in the American League East this season. And certainly Oakland and California are expected to be in the American League West race all the way. Billy Ripken leading off against Mike Flanagan. And he bounced the 0-1 pitch into the hole. Long throw for Fernandez, not in time. That didn't seem like Tony Fernandez's best throw from the hole. Didn't have much on it.
He sure did. I didn't see him get his feet crossed up here. He goes up. It's a slow hit ground ball. What he should have done there is backhand the ball, plant, and then throw. When you surround that ball from that deep in the hole, you have no chance to throw the runner out. He just surrounded that ground ball and instead of backhanding.
That's the second hit for the Baltimore Orioles. Lead man is on for the first time in the ball game for Baltimore, and Bill Ripken draws a throw. That's just the second hit for Billy Ripken in 14 at-bats this year.
Stanley Jefferson is a good bunter.
A pitch out on the first pitch to Jefferson. Nothing was on for the Blue Jays, rather for the Orioles, with the Blue Jays in the field.
Well, that's one thing that Baltimore does. They like to create offense. They like to hit and run. They like to bunt to get the guy over so those guys can drive into runs. So let's see 1-0 count if they start the runner or bunt. Flanagan throwing over. Jefferson makes a lot of contact. Ideal hit and run man. Hits the ball on the ground.
This time he hits it in the air to left field. Bell was playing deep, but he's there and makes the catch. Ripken back to first with 1 out. Now back to the Baseball Tonight studios and John Saunders.
Well, Sean, Roberto Kelly had driven in the Yankees' run to put him 1-0, but Frank Tanana catches him sleeping off second base, picks him off. They get out of the inning. It's 1-0 in the second. Let's get back to Toronto.
No score here at the Skydome. Baltimore Orioles batting in the top of the 3rd inning with 1 out and Billy Ripken aboard at first base. The batter is Phil Bradley, former University of Missouri quarterback. He was out on a fly ball to center his first time up. Late swing and a foul just past the first base bag.
One note about Phil Bradley, he has been hit 51 times in the last 5 years. Only one player in baseball, Brian Downing, has been hit more. And I talked to Phil about that, and he said the reason is because he doesn't like the ball inside. They know it, so they pound him inside, and as a result, he gets hit a lot. Last year only 2 times, but 1988 he got hit 16 times in the National League. Fairly on the plate, but that classic inside-out swing hits a lot of balls the other way.
Takes a pitch well outside from Mike Flanagan. 1 ball and 1 strike. Flanagan attended the University of Massachusetts. Had a 12-1 record rather as a collegian. Jeff Reardon, now with the Boston Red Sox, is also a product of the University of Massachusetts. Bill Bradley had a very solid first season with the Orioles last year. Hit .277. Bounces one up the middle. Lita Fernandez on to first for the 4-6-3 inning-ending double play. After 2.5 at the Skydome in Toronto, Ontario, no score. No scores. We head to the bottom of the third under the roof of the Skydome. We called it the world's most luxurious and advanced ballpark at the top of the program, and certainly it is. A couple of facts for you if you're not familiar with the Skydome. Baseball capacity 51,000. 41,000 of those seats are between the foul lines. The largest video display board is in center field. The roof weighs 11,000 tons, and it takes 20 minutes to open. It cost $500 million Canadian to build this place. Pat Borders with a deep drive to left center field, way back and gone. On Jeff Ballard's first pitch of the third, Pat Borders rips his second home run of the season. 1-0 Toronto. Now Manny Lee. He takes the first pitch that nips the outside corner for strike one. Manny's 4 for 8. He's a switch hitter. And he's consistent. 2 for 4 from each side of the plate.
Jeff Ballard throws him a fastball right over the heart of the plate, but down. Pat Borders goes down and gets it, loves the fastball. Said to me before the game, he said, Ray, I haven't hit in 4 or 5 days. I don't feel comfortable up there. So what you do, you come up there and swing hard in case you hit it. And that's what he did.
And it was the first hit for the Toronto Blue Jays. Pat Borders, the native of Lake Wales, Florida. Manny Lee with the cue shot off the end of the bat. Milligan makes the play himself. Now back to Toronto native John Saunders in the Baseball Tonight studios.
From my hometown. The Phils and the Expos, though. In another town I spent some time in, Pat Comso loses the ball facing Nelson Santavania. Somebody greased it up. Andres Galarraga goes into third easily. Let's get it back to Toronto.
And I'm glad that John mentioned that he had spent some time in Baltimore. I was about to point out that fact, just in case the Oriole fans around the country should think that John was biased against their ball club. Junior Felix, the number 9 hitter in the batting order tonight, off to a strong start this year, 320 for the homer, and he's driven in 5. He also got off to a very strong start last year and then tailed off at the end of the season. Ballard hits the outside corner again.
You see the third baseman they're playing in, Junior Felix, great speed. Tell you a little story about him in a moment.
Chops it to the left side. Ripken throws him out. 2 outs in the Toronto third. They lead 1-0 on the Borders home run.
Epi Guerrero, who is the Caribbean scout for Toronto, discovered Junior Felix while watching Sandlot baseball game. Junior Felix was running track in an adjacent field, saw this guy win the 100-yard dash, went over and talked to him about baseball, and ended up signing him to a minor league contract in 1985. So.
And that was at age 18. Junior Felix had not played very much baseball at all prior to then. And here he is, 22 years old, with just 4 years really of organized baseball under his belt. He's in the major leagues for the second year. Back to the top of the order, and Tony Fernandez, who drew a leadoff walk his first time up.
You know, when I came up, Sean, they used to look for guys that could hit and throw. And then with the advent of the AstroTurf, all of a sudden, if you could run, you could be a baseball player. They felt like you could run the ball down, you could bunt for base hits, you could steal bases and create offense. and they felt like they could teach you to hit, because with that type of speed, all you have to do is put the bat on the ball, and you put a tremendous amount of pressure on the defense.
Hernandez lines it to center, right at Mike Devereaux, and that's all for Toronto in the third. But the Blue Jays are first on the board in the ball game, following the leadoff home run here in the third by Pat Borders. After 3, 1-0 Toronto.
ESPN Baseball Tonight, brought to you by Michelob Dry. Bold taste with no aftertaste. Mick Dry refreshes completely. By Peerless Do-It-Yourself Faucets. Peerless installs in no time, lasts a long time. By Liquid Crystal, the best shine and protection money can buy. And by Scott's, a great lawn or your money back.
Sean McDonough with Ray Knight back at the Skydome in Toronto. And Cal Ripken is set to lead off as we go to the 4th inning. Blue Jays lead 1-0 on a home run by Pat Borders. And the first pitch to Ripken from his former teammate Mike Flanagan was outside for ball 1. Ripken was out on a pop-up and foul ground off first. Fred McGriff made a terrific play to end the first inning, reaching well into the stands to grab the pop-up. Fastball sails away. 2 balls and no strikes. Ironically, Mike Flanagan is the all-time leader in wins against the Toronto Blue Jays. While with the Orioles, he beat Toronto 17 times. On the outside corner, says home plate umpire Al Clark. 2-1 to Ripken, who tonight is playing in consecutive game number 1,257. All of them starts, and that is the 3rd longest streak in baseball history. He's now just 50 games behind Everett Scott's total of 1,307. And we all know who occupies the number 1 spot, Lou Gehrig. And that's a long way away. Three and 1 to Ripken. Popped up. Kelly Gruber and Pat Borders converge. And it's Gruber in fair territory for the first out of the inning. That'll bring up Mickey Tettleton, who last year hit 26 home runs. More than twice as many as he had in any previous season. Before tonight's game, Ray asked him if that was a career year. We apologize for the audio problems on the comment from Mickey Tettleton. We'll try to get that to you a little bit later on. He takes an off-speed pitch for ball 1.
You mentioned Mike Flanagan before. From 77 to 84, Mike Flanagan won 109 games and only lost 68.
His pitch is popped up by Tettleton into shallow right field. Glenn Allen Hill makes the catch.
And over the last 13 years, yes, Mike Flanagan has started more games than any AL pitcher, 398. So he's been a workhorse, and he hurt his Achilles tendon back in 1985. And then in 86, he had tendonitis in his elbow, and he just hasn't been able to get back to that late 70 and early 80 form. But over in the National League, it seemed that every time somebody would talk about left-handed pitching, Mike Flanagan's name would be right there at the top of the list.
Pitch is low to Randy Milligan. Ball 1. He drew a walk his first time up. The only walk thrown by Flanagan at this point. Mike's yielded 2 hits. Toronto leads 1-0 with 2 outs and the bases clear in the top of the 4th. We have a report now on Steve Finley. As we mentioned at the top of the telecast, he was originally scheduled to play right field and be the leadoff hitter. He sprained an ankle in batting practice. That's all we know for now. Stanley Jefferson is taking his spot in the lineup tonight. The original report that we have on Steve Finley is a sprained ankle suffered during batting practice.
see Frank Robinson there. Randy Milligan, mentioned him walking. Last year, only 2 guys had a better walk ratio than Randy Milligan in the American League. As he hits that ball foul down the right field line, Ricky Henderson and Fred McGriff are the only guys that walked more per at bat. Randy walked 1 time and 6 at bats last year, so it's tremendous patience at the plate, Sean. And you have to have with a guy like Mike Flanagan, because he'll pick you to death. He'll throw that little sinker away and that changeup and throws a lot of pitches that appear to be strikes and just move off the plate.
Still 2 balls and 2 strikes. Mike Flanagan won the Cy Young Award with the Baltimore Orioles in 1979 after leading the majors in wins with 23. 5 shutouts that year. He missed outside. 3 balls and 2 strikes. Here in Toronto, they talk a lot about what a terrific example he is for the rest of Cito Gaston's pitching staff. A hard worker, loves the game of baseball, talks baseball constantly. And you won't find many pitchers who have a better idea of what they're trying to accomplish when they're out there on the mound.
You certainly don't. In 1987, I played with him, Sean, and probably one of the smartest, or maybe one of the top 2 or 3 smart pitchers. Always in the game. A lot of times pitchers play games in the dugout. They go down into the bullpen, kidding around, but Mike Flanagan's always sitting right there on a bench, trying to see something for his advantage. He watches every hitter, looks for the hitter's weakness, talks to other pitchers about what he got the hitters out on. Just total student of the game.
Looking at the Orioles coaches, Johnny Oates is the coach at first. And Cal Ripken is in the third base coach's box. Mike Devereaux hit a solid line drive his first time up, but fortunately for Mike, it was right at the second baseman, Manny Lee. He's up with 2 outs in the top of the 4th. The Orioles trail 1-0. Milligan the runner at first. And he draws a throw from Flanagan. Ray spoke of Randy Milligan's patience, and he's walked twice tonight. 2-0 to count to Mike Devereaux, the former Los Angeles Dodger, who came over in a trade that really benefited both teams, as Mike Morgan went to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he's been a productive pitcher for Tommy Lasorda. Fernandez to Manny Lee for the force on Milligan that ends the inning. We've played 3.5 innings here at the Skydome in Toronto. Mike Flanagan and the Blue Jays have a 1-0 lead.
Let's check around the National League, then get you back to Toronto. The Cubs are now on the board thanks to Mark Grace, the sacrifice fly that scored Jerome Walton. 1-0. They lead the Mets. The Pirates get 2 more as Bobby Bonilla has a 2-run single. They're up 3-1. Let's get it back to Toronto to Sean and Red.
And here in Toronto, the Blue Jays have a 1-0 lead as they bat in the 4th against Jeff Ballard. The only run in this ball game came last inning, a leadoff home run from Pat Borders. Mookie Wilson bounced into a 4-6-3 double play back in the 1st. And he's now even with Jeff Ballard, 1 ball and 1 strike. Wilson, Gruber, and Bell to bat in the 4th inning. Outside, 2 balls and 1 strike. Jeff Ballard coming off elbow surgery just after the conclusion of last season. He had bone chips and a bone spur removed from his left elbow. Long run for 3 Orioles, and none of the 3 O's could get to that foul ball. Mookie Wilson is the designated hitter tonight for Toronto, and they won the American League East last year without much production from the DHs. Just a .216 combined batting average with 8 home runs and 55 RBI. As we mentioned earlier, Mookie's the DH tonight, but they hope that John Olerud will establish himself as the DH. Sinking line drive into shallow center. Devereaux makes the running catch. What about the idea of a rookie like Olerud being the DH? Do you think it's a good idea?
Well, for me, I was the type of hyper player that had to be involved, and I felt like I had to do something on the field to contribute to the ball club's winning ways. But talking to John earlier, he said that he's comfortable. He's just happy to be here. He loves to hit, and he's the type, he's low-key. He doesn't get too excited. So he said that it's something that he's enjoying, just an opportunity to get up there and swing the bat.
Kelly Gruber was out on a ground ball to short his first time up. 1-0 the count to Kelly. Kelly's from the state of Texas. He was very highly recruited as a baseball player and also as a football player. An outstanding quarterback. He lifts a deep drive to the opposite field, back to the wall and gone. Kelly Gruber's second home run of the season gives Toronto a 2-0 lead.
Kelly Gruber does what you have to do to a sinker ball pitcher way. He just gets this ball up with not a whole lot of sink on it. Kelly Gruber hits the ball out over the plate. As you see our sky cam, that ball's up and way out on the outside part of the plate. Kelly Gruber takes him the other way and just lifts it out over that fence.
There is still much debate here in Toronto as George Bell steps in and looked at a ball. He was out on a deep drive to center his first time up. There's much debate about how the ball carries in the Skydome. If it's a hitter's park, a pitcher's park. When it first opened, the ball didn't seem to carry very well at all. But as the season went along, it seemed to carry much better. That didn't carry very far, and it fell into the glove of Stan Jefferson, the right fielder, for the second out of the fourth. Blue Jays have just 2 hits. The home run by Gruber, the second. The first Toronto hit, the home run by Pat Borders, and it's 2-0 Toronto.
Well, again, Jeff got that pitch right out over the plate for George Bell, up in the hitting zone.
Fred McGriff, the hitter. He was out on a ground ball to first with the pitcher covering his first time up. And just as was the case during Fred's first at bat, the Orioles have gone into a pronounced defensive shift. Cal Ripken, the shortstop, is 1 step to the second base side of the second base bag. And you see Randy Milligan way over where the shortstop would, or rather Craig Worthington way over where the shortstop would normally be. The outfield, for the most part, straight away. The center fielder Devereaux just a couple of steps toward right.
Well, what that tells you, that when Fred McGriff hits the ball on the ground, he pulls it. And when he hits the ball in the air, he can hit the ball anywhere. But basically, when he hits the ball on the ground, he hits the ball hard and pulls it.
As he did his first time up. McGriff already with 2 home runs this season. He ended the season with a long home run drought, and he strikes out on the high fastball. First strikeout for Jeff Ballard, and that ends the inning. But the Blue Jays add another run rather on the homer by Kelly Gruber.
Back to Toronto in a moment, but first an interesting note. Roberto Kelly becomes the 5th player in Major League history to be caught stealing twice in 1 inning. First time he was safe when he was picked off on the Trammell error. They then picked him off second. 5th player in Major League history. Let's get it back to Toronto.
Did that ever happen to you, Ray? Are you one of the other 4?
No, I didn't try to steal twice.
Bottom third of the order for Baltimore as we move quickly to the 5th. Craig Worthington has one of the 2 Oriole base hits. He singled to center field back in the 2nd. Mike Flanagan's 1-0 pitch is inside for ball 2. Worthington will be followed by Bob Melvin and Billy Ripken in the 5th. Each team has 2 hits. The 2 Baltimore hits have been singles. The 2 Toronto hits, homers by Borders and Gruber.
To be a good Major League hitter, you must adjust, and one of the adjustments you normally make is move forward and closer to the plate on a left-hander that sinks the ball down and away. As you see, Worthington's back in the box.
And he draws a walk. Three walks now thrown by Mike Flanagan.
And one thing, see how deep he is in the batter's box there, and what it does is that sinker ball that is always the late movement that gets you, and that's what these guys are doing, Ballard and Flanagan. They throw that sinker that moves late, and if you're back in the box, you hit a lot of balls off the end of the bat.
Bob Melvin was out on a ground ball his first time up. 2-0 Toronto. We're in the top of the 5th inning. Well hit, base hit, left field. Worthington stopped at second. And Bob Melvin is at first, following the 3rd hit of the ball game for the Orioles.
Flanagan, throwing one of his few curveballs, tries to throw this ball on the outside part of the plate, gets it over the middle of the plate, right in there where Bob Melvin likes to hit it. Mike tried to backdoor that breaking ball and got on top of it a little bit, out front of it, and got it over the heart of the plate. Both Ballard and Mike Flanagan don't possess the type of stuff anymore that if they throw the ball over the heart of the plate, they're going to get hit hard. A lot of power pitchers can get away with throwing the ball over the center of the plate, but these two men cannot.
Bill Ripken a single his first time up. This time the Blue Jays clearly expect a bunt. The runners take off as Ripken looked at a strike, and a dead duck at third base is Craig Worthington. Well, you have to think Bill Ripken missed the sign because both runners took off with the pitch. And with these two runners, it's doubtful they'll be trying a straight double steal.
Well, I guarantee Craig Worthington's probably the slowest runner on the team, and Bob Melvin's the second slowest, so it had to be a hit and run because both of those guys would not have missed the sign. Billy Ripken looking down, thinking bunt, doesn't see the bunt sign, and probably just has one of those brain spasms. As you see the throw there from Borders, out by about 12 feet. But the only reason you send those runners with no one out is if you have a contact hitter at the plate. On AstroTurf, sometimes it's hard to get that bunt down, and Billy Ripken just missed the sign.
So instead of sacrificing and moving the tying run into scoring position, now there's one out and just one man on. Melvin the runner at second. Ripken slowly up the middle. Fernandez. That's the second out. And it moves Melvin to third base. Tomorrow night, all-star second baseman Ryne Sandberg leads the Chicago Cubs against Howard Johnson and the New York Mets. That's at 7:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. Others of you will see the 3rd game of this series between these two teams, the Orioles and the Toronto Blue Jays. The Cubs trying to defend their National League East title. Stan Jefferson is 0 for 2, and he looks at a strike on the outside part of the plate. Stan has bounced to second and flied to left. Toronto leads 2-0, 2 outs and a runner at third for Baltimore in the 5th.
Stanley Jefferson, the highly touted center fielder when I was with the Mets, traded to San Diego with Kevin Mitchell for Kevin McReynolds.
It's a very high pop-up and foul ground back of third. Gruber makes the catch. And what started as a very promising inning for the Orioles ends in frustration. Halfway through the ball game, 2-0 Toronto. Sean McDonough with Ray Knight. Delighted to have you with us tonight from Toronto, one of the most beautiful cities in all of North America. The homestanding Blue Jays enjoy a 2-0 lead as we go to the home half of the 5th inning. Solo home run in each of the last 2 innings from Pat Borders in the 3rd and Kelly Gruber in the 4th. Jeff Ballard begins the 5th with a ball low to Glenn Allen Hill, who's 0 for 1 in tonight's ball game. He grounded out to the shortstop, Cal Ripken, his first time up.
Well, when I was talking to the Blue Jays today, they talked about Glenn Allen Hill the way that a lot of people talk about Bo Jackson. Tremendous power, great running speed, good arm. Needs to learn to play the outfield a little bit better. Just a tremendous young talent.
Very high toward the seats in foul ground and right. But just in front of the seats, the catch made by Stan Jefferson, who was then accosted by a fan. Back to the Baseball Tonight studios and John Saunders.
Well, Sean, former Toronto Blue Jay Jose Nunez facing the Mets here, and Greg Jeffries at the plate just yanks this one down the right field line. Elster was on second. He comes in to score, ties the game at 1-1. You can see the Cubs and the Mets here tomorrow night on ESPN. Right now, the Mets have it loaded up and tied 1-1. Back to you.
And here the Blue Jays have the bases empty with one out in the fifth for Pat Borders, who ripped his second home run of the year on the first pitch of the third over the fence in left center field. Pat and Greg Myers now sharing the catching chores as the last of the original Blue Jays. Ernie Witt has moved along to the Atlanta Braves. And some of the so-called experts think that catching is one of the Blue Jay weaknesses, but speaking with general manager Pat Gillick before tonight's game, he thinks Borders and Myers have done a nice job to this point this season, and he fully expects that they will continue to do just that.
And speaking with the pitchers, last year with Pat Borders catching, 4 out of 5 of them, the only exception being Mike Flanagan, had better earned run averages with Pat Borders catching.
Borders hits it well again to left center field. On the run, Phil Bradley, and it's over his head and over the fence on one hop. A ground rule double for Pat Borders.
Well, Pat Borders has come out hacking tonight. A pitch a little up, the other pitch down, that pitch up in the strike zone. He just drives it line shot over Phil Bradley's head. Nothing he can do about it. It's a little versatility. Fastball down in the strike zone, comes back, fastball up. But one thing about it, both of them out over the plate.
3 hits now for Toronto, all of them extra base hits, the 2 home runs and now the double. And here's Manny Lee, who's grounded out to the first baseman Milligan, his first time up. To the left side this time. Borders has to stay at second as Cal Ripken throws out Manny Lee. Before it gets much farther along, the play by Billy Ripken, who's come into your picture, is a big one. He seems to be the obvious goat at the moment with the runners running from first and second and nobody out at the top of this inning. But what about the strategy in general? Billy Ripken is no sure thing to make contact at the plate, and Frank Robinson, down by 2, had 2 slow runners on the move.
Well, it's a situation you really don't know. Craig Worthington could have missed that sign. The guy at first base, when the guy from second takes off, he follows him and trails him. So, you know, it's maybe not be fair to Billy Ripken, but it's not beyond Frank Robinson to start those runners, knowing that Billy Ripken makes good contact and that Mike Flanagan, a ground ball pitcher, wants to stay out of the double play. So I wouldn't be surprised if Frank sent the runners there, but Billy Ripken is an excellent bunter.
The only reason I thought he sent the runners was because the trail runner Melvin seemed to take off at the same time as Worthington. There wasn't any hesitation. They both left, at least it seems, simultaneously. And Frank Robinson went against the book a lot last year. I think to his credit, he knew he had an underdog ball club that had been the worst team in baseball the year before. So why not go against the book? Try to make things happen by playing aggressive baseball. And I think it's refreshing to see that that has not changed, although he seems to have been victimized by that strategy. Here's a deep drive by Junior Felix. And it's just off the top of the fence. Or is it a home run? It is a home run. A 2-run homer for Junior Felix just over the fence. There's a tarp that's the same color as the fence that hangs just beyond the fence in the outfield. All the damage done to Jeff Ballard done by the long ball, and it's 4-0 Blue Jays. Second home run of the year for Felix.
You see Jeff Ballard here, another fastball down but still out over the plate. Jeff does not have that late sinking movement. Junior Felix just waits on it, gets the barrel of the bat and hits it off the facade out there. Boom.
Yes, it did. Well out of here. I'm gonna have to check the prescription on these glasses.
Well, what I'm seeing in Jeff Ballard is that subtle late movement. A lot of times when your arm is not strong, you don't have that heavy ball, that late movement, and that late movement at the plate. It doesn't have to move a lot. It just has to move late and quick, whether it's a slider or a changeup or a screwball. It gets hitters out. Those pitchers are down, the home run to Borders and that home run there to Felix. But they were over the middle of the plate with little movement.
Tony Fernandez strikes out on 3 pitches as Tettleton was able to squeeze the foul tip. Second strikeout for Ballard, but more than likely he's thinking much more about the home run by Junior Felix. After 5, 4-0 Toronto. 4 hits for the Blue Jays and 3 home runs. All 4 Toronto hits, extra base hits. The homers by Borders, Gruber, and Felix. And it's 4-0 Blue Jays as we go to the 6th inning. Phil Bradley with a line drive on one hop off the wall and right. Retrieved by Hill, but Bradley is in a second with a stand-up double. 4th hit for Baltimore, and that's the first extra base hit for the Orioles.
We mentioned Phil Bradley inside out, pitch middle of the plate, see him inside out the ball down the right field line. He just brings his hands into his body, throws a bat barrel out toward right center field, gets good wood on the ball.
And he made a habit of delivering a hit when leading off last year, as those numbers indicate. Cito Gaston on his way to the mound. Flanagan's into the 6th inning in his first and only previous start of the year against Texas. He went 5 innings and allowed just 1 run on 5 hits in that outing, so he could be tiring with the shortened spring. And Cito Gaston is not shy about going to his bullpen. It's the best in the American League East and one of the best certainly in all of baseball. Jim Acker will be the new pitcher with the score. Toronto 4 and Baltimore nothing. You're watching Baseball Tonight on ESPN. Jim Acker is the new pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. He has just delivered ball 1 high and inside to Cal Ripken. He comes on trying to protect a 4-0 Toronto lead. With nobody out at the top of the 6th, and the Orioles have Phil Bradley at second following leadoff double. Ripken's 0 for 2. He'll be followed by Mickey Tettleton. And the Acker breaking ball is low and away. 2 balls and no strikes.
Jim Acker has a sinker, a slider, keeps the ball down. Great competitor, doesn't back away from any challenge, has a changeup that he throws occasionally. Real heavy sinker. Last year when he came over to Toronto, he had a 1.59 earned run average in his last 28 innings. As you see that fastball bore in on that right-handed hitter.
He's fallen behind Ripken, 3 balls and no strikes. Mike Flanagan, 5+ innings. He faced 1 batter here in the 6th. 3 walks, no strikeouts. And Acker's in with his first strike. Out of the Toronto bullpen, young right-hander Willie Blair is throwing under the watchful eye of bullpen coach John Sullivan. Here in Toronto, the dugouts cannot see into the bullpen, so they look into the bullpens using television monitors. Ripken pulls it down to Gruber. He can't hang on, and everybody will be safe. Bradley remained at second as Kelly Gruber bounced it off the turf. And we'll wait for the scoring as Cal Ripken is safe at first base.
I never like to see anybody back up on a ground ball. In that situation there, the balls, he could have come and caught that ball on the short hop. When you back up, you're almost dead. Kelly Gruber has a tremendous arm. He's probably backed up a lot of balls on the AstroTurf, but if you read the ball properly, you can come and catch that ball on a short hop.
It's an error charge to Gruber, his first of the year and just the 3rd committed by the Toronto Blue Jays this season. They've been excellent through the first 8 games of the year defensively. So 2 men on with nobody out for Mickey Tettleton, who bounced back to the mound and was out on a fly ball to right against Mike Flanagan. With the cleanup hitter at the plate and with the Orioles trailing by 4 runs, the Blue Jays in no way anticipate a bunt from Tettleton. And the count is 1 ball and 1 strike.
This is a good matchup here, Sean. Mickey Tettleton is one of those rare left-handed hitters that likes the ball up. Acker throwing the ball down. This should be a real challenge for Tettleton here. good double play situation. Acker knows that Tettleton likes the ball up.
Toronto leads 4-0, but the Orioles are threatening in the 6th. It's a ball that breaks away from Pat Borders. 2 balls and 1 strike. The runners are Phil Bradley at second and Cal Ripken at first. And Borders is out to speak with Jim Acker, who's back with the Blue Jays for his 2nd tour of duty. He is the only player in Toronto history to be traded away by the club and then reacquired in a trade. He went to the Atlanta Braves for pitcher Joe Johnson back in 1986 and was reacquired by the Blue Jays last season in August for 2 prospects, a pitcher named Tony Castillo and a catcher, Francisco Cabrera. And he's having trouble with his control. He's fallen behind Tettleton, 3 balls and 1 strike. Chop foul at the plate, and the count is full. Mickey Tettleton with a look down to Cal Ripken in the third base coach's box, and the runners had their eyes on Cal Ripken Sr. Not sure this is the situation that you'd put the runners on the move. Tettleton is prone to the strikeout and trailing by 4. The Orioles can't take too many chances.
Well, when you're 4 runs down, you're looking for trouble. Line drive, double play. You could even get a triple play in that situation, so he'll probably keep everybody there.
And the runners do remain stationary. It's rifled past McGriff and down into the right field corner. Bradley's around to score. Ripken is held at third as Mickey Tettleton pulls into second with a double. It's 4-1 Toronto, and 2 more runners in scoring position with nobody out for the Orioles here in the 6th as Mickey Tettleton picks up his first RBI of the year. ESPN's Baseball Tonight coming to you on this Tuesday from Skydome in Toronto, Ontario. Sean McDonough with Ray Knight. The Blue Jays jumped off to a 4-0 lead via the long ball. Solo home runs by Pat Borders and Kelly Gruber, and a 2-run shot by Junior Felix. But here in the 6th, the Orioles have knocked Mike Flanagan out of the ball game. And they've taken advantage of the error by Gruber and the struggles of Jim Acker to make it 4-1. That run charged to Mike Flanagan. Randy Milligan at the plate with a count of 1-0. He walked in each of his 2 plate appearances against Flanagan, and he chopped that one foul past Cal Ripken Sr. and Junior for that matter, since they are side by side.
And you see Acker, he went exclusively with the fastball to both Tettleton, and then now he comes back with a right-handed hitter and starts him off with 2 sliders.
The 1-1 pitch. Well outside. 2 balls and a strike. Mike Devereaux will follow Randy Milligan. Pulled foul. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Milligan hit .367 against the Blue Jays last year, and that was his best mark against any American League club.
Well, we mentioned him being a low ball hitter. Another interesting matchup. Jim Acker can throw a 4-seam fastball, and he will bust you in off the plate.
His 2-2 pitch is well outside, and it's a full count. Blue Jays asked for an appeal down to John Hirschbeck, but it was clearly not a swing. And the count is full to Randy Milligan with nobody out, 2 men in scoring position, 1 run in here in the 6th for Baltimore. Jim Acker and the Blue Jays lead 4-1. Acker and Borders having a tough time getting on the same page. Low ball 4, and Milligan walks for the 3rd time in as many plate appearances. Now Galen Cisco, the pitching coach, is on his way to the mound. Control trouble is the greatest problem for Jim Acker at the moment, and Willie Blair has been joined by the lefty David Wells. Galen Cisco in his first year as the Blue Jays full-time pitching coach. Al Widmar had been with the Blue Jays from the beginning, but he has retired. Galen was a terrific football player at Ohio State back in the late 50s. Was on a Rose Bowl team that defeated Oregon. That was in 1958, a 10-7 Buckeye win. Al Clark out to tell Galen it's time to go back to the dugout. And there will be a pinch hitter to face Jim Acker. Mike Devereaux was the scheduled hitter, but Joe Orsulak has moved in the on-deck circle, and he has been introduced into the ballgame. Orsulak batting for Devereaux, who went 0 for 2. Joe's been to the plate 12 times this year with 3 hits. He is 0 for 2 as a pinch hitter, and he's up with the bases loaded and nobody out. The tying run at first. Orsulak represents the go-ahead run, with Toronto leading 4-1. Cal Ripken the runner at third, Mickey Tettleton at second, Randy Milligan at first. Acker misses outside. Throw back to the mound, got away from Acker. Backed up by Fernandez, and Ripken did not try to score.
I'll tell you what, Sean, a lot of times a pitcher will come in and establish that he is a little wild. Acker has thrown 3 pitches, 2 to Milligan, 1 there to Orsulak. That were borderline strikes. If you establish that you have the good control, a lot of umpires will give you that strike. Right now, Jim Acker is getting nothing.
Orsulak hits a double play ball. Manny Lee goes to second, on to first, not in time, and a run scores. Ripken crossed the plate to make it 4-2. Manny Lee wasn't quite sure what he wanted to do with that ball. Had he just gone to second right away, they could have turned the double play, but he got a little bit confused when the runner Randy Milligan passed by in front of him.
Well, any smart base runner is not going to allow you to tag him. So Manny Lee on this ball right here, all he has to do is charge the ball, get the ball as quickly as he can to Fernandez, and they'll get a double play. Everybody knows a major league runner on first base will stop and not allow that second baseman to tag you. Manny Lee should also know that.
One out, runners at the corners for Craig Worthington. And there's another very close pitch, as you were saying, that Acker did not get for a called strike. With that run scored, Cal Ripken has now moved out of the tie for 3rd place with Boog Powell, and in the 3rd place all by himself on the Orioles all-time run scored list, trailing only Brooks Robinson and Eddie Murray. Acker's 1-0. A strike called. Craig Worthington's had a perfect night. As you look at Cal Ripken alongside Phil Bradley.
And I've got a feeling that Junior, as they call him, is going to put a lot of pressure on old Brooksy and Eddie before his career's over.
Hey, Melvin.
Slowly hit foul down the 3rd base line. Retrieved by Gruber. His error definitely a part of the story here in the top of the 6th. Worthington singled to center in the 2nd and walked against Mike Flanagan in the 5th. Toronto leads 4-2 with the Orioles at the tying run at first with 1 out. 4 runs, 4 hits, and 1 error for the Blue Jays. 2 runs now, 5 hits. And no errors committed by Baltimore. Little pop-up. Fernandez with the catch. And that's a big 2nd out of the inning for the Toronto Blue Jays, as Worthington can't get the runner in from 3rd with 1 out. And that job is left to Bob Melvin now with 2 outs. Melvin single to left his last time up. That was in the 5th. He grounded out in the 2nd.
Acker making a very good pitch on Worthington. That breaking ball down and away in the strike zone, knowing Worthington likes that fastball in.
One to know the count to Bob Melvin, who struggled against right-handed pitchers last year, but you'd have to think that he didn't face that many right-handed pitchers, as he shared the catching duties with Tettleton. And Tettleton, the switch hitter, is much more likely to have played against right-handed pitchers.
But he is very susceptible to the breaking ball. He was in the National League, always seemed to get the barrel of the bat on the fastball, but has a tough time handling that breaking ball, and Acker has thrown him 2 straight sliders.
That's well hit to left. George Bell on the run, and he makes the catch just in front of the fence. Bob Melvin with a strong bid to tie up the ball game. The Orioles cut the lead in half. It's 4-2.
The Jays leading the Orioles 4-2. Back to Skydome in just a few moments' time. Let's check the National League scoreboard. Mark Carrion's home run put the Mets up over the Cubs. Pittsburgh blowing out St. Louis at 7-1. Lonnie Smith is an RBI single, and Dale Murphy has an RBI single as well, as Atlanta leads Houston 2-0 in the 2nd. Let's get it back to Sean and Ray in Toronto,
where the Blue Jays have a 4-2 lead, but Baltimore threatened to pull still closer as Bob Melvin hit a line drive to the wall and left.
Jim Acker hangs that breaking ball. That's what you call a backup slider, right on the inside part of the plate. But George Bell, going full tilt, makes an outstanding play.
George has been criticized on occasion by the fans here in Toronto for his defense, but they cheered loudly as he came running off the field at the end of the inning. We move now to the bottom of the 6th inning. In this game 1 of our baseball tonight doubleheader, game 2 will match the Oakland Athletics and the California Angels. Most of you will see that ball game, while others will see Minnesota and Seattle. President Mark Langston already made his presence felt with the California Angels, combining with Mike Witt on a no-hitter in his very first outing for Doug Rader's ball club. Mookie's bounced into a 4-6-3 double play, and he was out last time up in the 4th on a line drive to center. Jeff Ballard's gone all the way for Baltimore. We mentioned earlier that Al Jackson, the pitching coach, hoped he'd be able to go 6 innings. Stan Jefferson has moved to center field from right field. And Joe Orsulak is in right field after he came up as a pinch hitter for Mike Devereaux. The 0-2 pitch. Mookie had to skip out of the way of that one. Ballard's only allowed 4 hits through 5 innings. 3 of them have been homers, and the other one a double. That's a fair ball right over the bag. Mookie on his way to second, and he's in standing with a double. First hit for Mookie, 5th for the Blue Jays, all of them extra base hits. Now 3 home runs and 2 doubles.
Well, that's just a good piece of hitting there with Mookie, as you see Jeff Ballard and Tettleton talking. When you get 2 strikes, you look away and fight the ball off inside. You see him there late on that swing, but he was just staying back, making sure he didn't get fooled, hit the ball hard down the right field line. I love to see a hitter do that with 2 strikes.
It was just fair right over the bag for Mookie Wilson. And he chats with Cal Ripken Jr. as Frank Robinson goes very slowly to the mound. And that will be all for Jeff Ballard. He leaves after 5+ innings, and he departs with the Orioles trailing 4-2. So Jeff Ballard, who won more games than any other lefty in the American League last year, 18, will not pick up his first win of the season here tonight. He'll be replaced by Brian Holton. 4-2 Toronto. We're back after this on ESPN.
As the Orioles make the pitching change, in one dome, let's move to another. This, the Astrodome. John Smoltz, the Franklin Stubbs, his first home run as a member of the Astros, a 2-run shot, ties the game at 2 apiece. Let's get it back to Sean and Ray in Toronto.
Thank you very much, John. 4-2 Toronto as Brian Holton warms up. I'm Sean McDonough along with Ray Knight. We'll be with you each and every Tuesday night for the first game at 7:30 Eastern time of our ESPN Tuesday night doubleheader. Our regular season debut rained out last week in Cleveland, but this is a good way to start. It's been a good ball game.
It has been a good ball game, well-pitched ball game. Like we said, not very many strikeouts early. A lot of balls hit, mistakes hit hard.
And Brian Holton, the former Los Angeles Dodger, comes on with nobody out in the bottom of the 6th. He inherits Mookie Wilson at second base. And the first man he will face is Kelly Gruber, who's 1 for 2 with a home run down the right field line his last time up in the 4th.
Well, Brian features that Dodger-taught curveball. He likes to throw it. You see it right there, right off the bat. A fastball that he has to spot. Not a lot of velocity. 83, 84 mile-an-hour fastball. Occasional changeup. A 3-pitch pitcher, but you'll see him throw a lot of curveballs.
1-0 to Gruber. Kelly lifts a pop-up, heading for the seats first base side. Gruber's home run, his second of the season. He's now driven in 7, which ties him with George Bell for the club lead. Bell and Gruber, 2 players drafted away from other organizations by general manager Pat Gillick in the Major League draft. The Blue Jays have made better use of that Major League draft than any other team. He stings a single to center. Wilson had to hold to see if the ball would be caught as it passed by up the middle. And with nobody out, he does not want to run into the first out of the inning at the plate. Kelly Gruber's 2 for 3, and the Blue Jays have runners at the corners with nobody out in the 6th inning.
Kelly Gruber, another fastball right out over the plate with no movement. Brian Holton has to spot the fastball. Got it a little out on the outside part of the plate, but Kelly Gruber staying right on top of that baseball and drilling it right back up the middle. One thing that Al Jackson said, the pitching coach for the Orioles, is that Brian Holton must spot that fastball because it's straight as a string.
And the Blue Jays trying to do to Holton what good teams so often do, answer a score by the opposition in their very next at bat. Orioles got 2 in the top of this inning. They had to feel as though they were back in the ball game, and now the Blue Jays threaten to push them away again.
Well, this is the man that can drive in some runs.
George Bell 0 for 2 tonight, out on a couple of fly balls, 1 to center and 1 to right. He hammered that, but he was out ahead of it.
Well, over the last 6 seasons, George has averaged 104 RBIs. With a season high in 1987 with his MVP, he had 134 RBIs. He's the type of guy that he gets real excited when those runners get out there on base. He has a real tendency to drive them in.
The Blue Jays all-time leader in RBI. And he looks at a strike on the outside corner. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, spotting that fastball. When we say spot the fastball, throw the ball to the small part of the plate, dissect the plate. To talk about the inside and outside corner being the black, there's about 1 inch of a black strip out there, and a guy that spots the ball like Brian Holton must be somewhere around that black in order to be effective.
Bell right back to the mound. They have Wilson trapped between home and third. Holton to Worthington. Now Tettleton. The Orioles didn't do it very well. Mookie Wilson did, allowing the runners to move to second and third. Gruber went from first to third, and George Bell, who hit the ball back to the mound, is standing at second now with 1 out in the 6th.
Well, what you do in the pitcher situation here, you go to Mookie, you get between he and home, and you run him all the way back to third base and make one toss. What he did, he gave the ball up too quickly, and as a result, he allowed Bell to go all the way to second base and Gruber to go to third. It's a very simple play. Just get between the runner and home, run him back to third base, give the ball up, and tag him.
Kelly Gruber, the runner at third. And George Bell at second with 1 out in the 6th. The Blue Jays trying to build on a 4-2 lead. And Fred McGriff will be intentionally walked with first base empty. They'll set up a double play situation and take their chances with Glenn Allen Hill. That is, unless Cito Gaston decides to pinch hit for Hill.
Well, he has Olerud on the bench. He has Rance Mullinex and the second catcher, Greg Myers.
Frank Robinson making the percentage move here. And that's ball 4. The bases are loaded. And now let's check in with John Saunders.
Sean and Ray, at Tiger Stadium, Frank Tanana in the 6th is down 1-0, but has the bases loaded to face Dave Winfield. Missed all of last year. You never know it. Rips it out to left field. 2-run score. The Yankees take a 3-0 lead. Barfield drives in another. It's now 4-0 Yankees. Back to Toronto.
Glenn Allen Hill at the plate against Brian Holton. He's 0 for 2. He's grounded out. And he was out on a fly ball to right field last time up, as Jefferson made the catch and foul ground.
Well, you wonder why not pinch hit here for Glenn Allen Hill and blow this game open. He's a fly ball hitter, tremendous speed. Infield for the Orioles and double play depth. He'll have to hit the ball real hard on the ground for them to be able to turn the double play on him.
Glenn Allen Hill's only major league home run was a grand slam last year against Mark Guthrie of the Minnesota Twins. That was on September 1st.
Another thing dictates whether you pinch hit or not. Holton, not being a pitcher that's really nasty, has to spot the ball. So Cito Gaston feels like this guy can get a piece of the ball off of it.
Holton had Hill ducking out of the way from the breaking ball.
Well, he does have a good curveball. We mentioned that before, but he has been very inconsistent, according to Al Jackson.
In the air, not particularly deep to left field. A long run for Bradley and for Ripken. Ripken makes the catch. Gruber didn't tag. The throw comes into third, and Kelly Gruber's back safely. You would think in that situation, Phil Bradley, if he can get that ball, should catch it. He's coming toward the infield. Had Gruber been tagging with Ripken heading away from the infield, he might have had a chance to score.
Well, absolutely, no problem. No problem. I guess Phil Bradley may have called, but here in Toronto, Cal Ripken not hearing. But the thing that I see in this play, Kelly Gruber, you stay on third base. If the ball hits the ground, you can walk home. You don't go halfway on that situation. You stay on third base. If the ball hits that AstroTurf, it's going to bounce 20 feet high, and you can walk home. You stay tagged up there in case those guys collide, and then you can steal a run.
But Gruber is still standing at third. The bases remain loaded. Now with 2 outs, and there will be a pinch hitter for Pat Borders. Greg Myers, part of the catching platoon for the Blue Jays, and a left-handed hitter, Will Patton, for Borders. Borders had a good night, 2 for 2 with the homer and double, and he scored 2 of the 4 Blue Jay runs.
That goes to show you the nature of this game, boy. They're platooning all the way around, and Pat Borders had a tremendous night.
This is the first pinch hitting appearance of the season for Greg Myers. He swings at the first pitch and lifts a pop-up. The Orioles should get out of this unscathed, and they do. Mickey Tettleton puts away the pop-up and foul ground. Blue Jays loaded the bases with 1 out, but could not score. And after 6 at the Skydome, still 4-2 Toronto.
ESPN Baseball Tonight, brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers. Remember, know when to say when. By Rheem Air Conditioning. Rheem, the air of quality. By Franklin, the batting glove that's a hit with the best in baseball. And by Energizer Batteries. Nothing outlasts the Energizer.
Sean McDonough with Ray Knight back at the Skydome in Toronto, Ontario. Through 6 innings, the Blue Jays have a 4-2 lead, and they've gone back to their bullpen for the second time. The third pitcher of the night for the Blue Jays is 26-year-old lefty David Wells.
Well, David Wells, he's 6'4", 225 pounds, and just an overpowering pitcher. Great fastball and a sharp curveball. He's that left-hander that we talked about and mentioned that complements Hinkie and Ward.
And his first pitch, a ball to Bill Ripken. Ripken, an infield single his first time up. Last time up, he grounded to short. He came up with runners at first and second. Those runners took off on the first pitch to him. Billy didn't budge. And Worthington was a dead duck trying to go into third as Borders threw him out.
If you think right-handers have an easy time on this man, right-handers only hit 199 against David Wells last year.
And it's an all-new battery for the Blue Jays. Wells, the new pitcher, and Greg Myers, after the pinch hitting appearance, stays in as catcher. A high fastball, 2 balls and 1 strike. Wells is one of those pitchers who readily admits that he's learned a lot watching tonight's starting pitcher, Mike Flanagan. Count is 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, sometimes these young pitchers with the great arms think that they can just throw the ball by everybody. You just can't pound a major league hitter consistently with fastballs, because he'll do something, make an adjustment, catch up with that fastball. And that's what Mike Flanagan has taught him. Learn to pitch to spots, throw the ball to the small parts of the plate.
Well hit, but into the glove of Fred McGriff on the line. 1 out in the 7th. A great collection of talent on this field tonight, and it's the greatest collection of talent ever available for the NFL draft. At least many people think so. One of those gentlemen whose name you see on the screen doesn't think so, Joe Theismann. But a lot of people do think it's a great year for talent in the NFL draft, and you can see who your team picks during exclusive live coverage of the 1990 NFL draft, Sunday, April 22nd. Stan Jefferson, a late addition to the starting lineup after Steve Finley was scratched. He went down with a sprained ankle in batting practice. Jefferson is 0 for 3 tonight. Wells misses outside. 2 balls and no strikes. We're in the 7th, 1 out, and the base is empty for Baltimore. David Wells inherits a 4-2 lead. He's from San Diego, California.
Well, to show you how they respect David Wells' fastball, the center fielder is playing to the right of second base, and the right fielder is toward the line and very shallow. Big gap in the left center field because they don't believe that anybody can pull this man. At least not Stanley Jefferson.
Stanley walks on 4 pitches, and Wells lost his cap as he followed through with that pitch. That brings the tying run back to the plate for the Baltimore Orioles. It's the 5th walk thrown by Toronto pitchers tonight. The starter Flanagan issued 3. Acker yielded 1 walk in his 1 inning, and now Wells walks the second man he faces.
As you watch David Wells here deliver the pitch, he knocks his hat off as he's bringing that glove and ball down.
Now that could not have helped his control as he tried to get a 3-0 pitch over. Phil Bradley started the 2-run uprising for Baltimore last inning with a leadoff double down the right field line. He scored the first of the 2 runs. And that's 5 straight balls thrown by Wells. With his double, Bradley now has exactly 1 hit in each of the 6 games in which he's appeared this year. It's a perfect double play ball. Lead of Fernandez to McGriff. And the 4-6-3 twin killing ends the inning. Seventh inning stretch at the Skydome in Toronto, and the Blue Jays have a 4-2 lead.
At Shea Stadium in New York, it's the Cubs and the Mets, and the fireworks are underway. 2-1 Mets. Sid Fernandez with the bases full. Lloyd McClendon takes care of that in a hurry. Sends this one into the first tier. His first ever grand slam. 5-2 Cubs. But then Les Lancaster facing Howard Johnson with 2 Mets aboard. And this is a 3-run home run. Back to the bullpen. It tied the game at 5-5. Let's get it back to Toronto to Sean and Ray.
And let's hope that those two teams save some excitement for tomorrow night when they'll go head-to-head on ESPN's Baseball Tonight. Manny Lee leads off the 7th for Toronto. The Blue Jays lead 4-2. Manny's 0-2. He has grounded out twice. Junior Felix and Tony Fernandez scheduled to follow against Brian Holton. That's out of play, 0-2. Holton did a nice job working his way out of trouble last inning. Jay sent 6 men to the plate in the 6th and did not score.
Manny Lee from San Pedro de Macorís. One time he was traded for me, Sean.
He was.
He sure was. 1984.
Right at a baseball card show.
How about a New York Mets?
He is the subject still of some trade rumors. He was traded for you.
Yes, he was.
What an honor.
What an honor. 1984, August. He and Mitch Cook and Joe Young, who's now the center fielder for the Astros, were traded for me, and I went on to New York.
And Manny Lee honored by that trade, being traded for one of the all-time greats, but not honored in that at bat as he strikes out swinging. First strikeout for Holton, the 3rd thrown by Baltimore pitchers tonight. Well, who would you say got the better of that trade?
The Mets.
Attaboy. I was afraid you were going to be dishonest in the name of modesty.
I've been out of the game 2 years, and those 2 kids can play for another 7 or 8, so I imagine the other teams did. The funny thing about that, Manny Lee was traded over there in August, and then in December, Toronto drafted him off the Astros AAA roster, and the Astros never got to see him.
Junior Felix has the biggest hit of the ball game. That came against Ballard while batting from the right side. He had a 2-run homer off the facade, just beyond the 375 mark in left center field. His 2nd homer of the year. He's driven in 7. He's tied with Bell and Gruber for the club lead in that department. And for a little guy, he can hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Talking about hitting the ball out of the ballpark, he was one of the few guys to hit a home run in his first at bat in the major leagues on the very first pitch. There you see it. One of 11 players.
Only 56 major leaguers have homered in their first at bat. But he's one of 11 to do it on the first major league pitch. One of 9 home runs Felix had last year. Holton's fallen behind him 3 balls and 1 strike with 1 out, bases empty in the home half of the 7th. Blue Jays 4, Orioles 2. Felix deep down the right field line. And foul. More than enough to get it out of here, but foul.
Look how open Junior Felix is, but one thing I like about that, a lot of young hitters are going to that open stance because you see the ball better, and your first move has to be toward the pitcher. You don't have a chance to pull off the ball.
Off-speed pitch. And it's ball 4. Junior draws a walk, and Brian Holton did something that's relatively difficult to do. Felix walked 33 times last year. 415 at-bats. 2nd walk issued by Brian, but the other was an intentional walk to McGriff last inning. And here's Tony Fernandez, who walked his first time up. Since then, he's lined to center and struck out.
Talking to the Blue Jay coach, Junior Felix has tremendous speed, probably the fastest player on this ball club, but he got thrown out 18. He stole 18 out of 30 bases last year. He just hasn't learned the instincts, hasn't been in the league long enough to read pitchers, but has truly great sprinter speed.
Fernandez at the plate. Worthington, the third baseman, is a couple of steps in front of the bag. The outfield swung way around toward left, and Tony goes in that direction. Tony has a gaping hole in right center field to shoot for.
Another example of that Oriole defense. They know that Tony likes to spray the ball around, so what they're doing is trying to keep the ball away from him so that he'll hit the ball into the teeth of their defense, which is shaded around the left field. Looks like he's going to pitch out. He's going to throw over. He gave that little flip of his thumb there. A lot of times that locks in the pitch out. Anytime you're watching a game and you see the catcher take his thumb and flip it over toward first base, he's going to throw over. And some clubs lock that in and pitch out the very next pitch.
Fastball, a called strike. And Fernandez is behind in the count. No balls and 2 strikes. Tony's lifetime batting average of .292 entering this season is tops among all players who have played at least 350 games for the Blue Jays. The ball high and away. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
And if you think that he's relaxed right-handed, we showed you his hands early in the game. Watch how he just caresses this bat. A la Rod Carew, lays the bat back. Watch out when he sets up how he just caresses this bat in his hand. Hardly any pressure on that top hand at all.
Felix has asked for time. He's going to do a little housekeeping. We're in the bottom of the 7th. Fernandez at the plate with 1 out. Felix at first. Toronto trying to build on a 4-2 lead. Tettleton jumped out as if it was supposed to be a pitch out, and Holton threw it dangerously close to the strike zone.
Well, he's gone away with the fastball. Let's see if he's setting up to come in with the breaking ball or the fastball in.
Felix takes off. Fernandez hits it on the ground. Ripken stayed at home. He makes the play on Tony for the 2nd out of the inning, but Felix is now in scoring position. (4-2) Toronto. Blue Jays trying to add another run with 2 outs in the bottom of the 7th. Tettleton and Holton talked about what they want to do with Mookie Wilson, whose 1 hit tonight was a double, starting last inning. A bounding ball just fair over the bag at first. That drove Jeff Ballard from the ball game. Mookie another chopper down the first base line. Holton to Milligan, and that's all for Toronto in the 7th. After 7 at the Skydome in Toronto, it's the Blue Jays 4 and the Orioles 2.
Blue Jays still leading the Orioles. We'll get back to Toronto in just a moment, but let's check the scoreboards. First in the American League, Gary Ward's home run has put the Tigers on the board. They're still down 4-1. Sandy Alomar Jr. has an RBI single. Cleveland leading Kansas City 2-0. Milwaukee, Texas all tied up. Ruben Sierra has a home run there. In the National League, they're trading home runs in that Mets game. Lloyd McClendon with a grand slam. Howard Johnson with a 3-run shot. Franklin Stubbs has a 2-run home run. Houston and Atlanta 3-2 now. The Astros lead. Back to Toronto.
Where the Blue Jays take a 4-2 lead into the 8th. The first pitch of the inning from David Wells to Cal Ripken was ball 1. Cal's 0 for 3, but he did reach on the Kelly Gruber error in the 6th, and he scored the 2nd of the 2 Oriole runs. 1 run charged to the starter Flanagan. The other one, the unearned run, charged to Acker. There's a base hit for Ripken. Solid single through the middle. We remind you that this copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the expressed written consent of Major League Baseball. That's the first hit given up by David Wells in his inning plus. And the tying run at the plate is Mickey Tettleton, who doubled to right, driving in the first Baltimore run in the 6th. That came while batting from the left side of the plate against Jim Ackert. His only hit in 3 trips. Outside, 1 ball and 1 strike. Randy Milligan waits on deck.
As I look at, as you see David Wells there, as I look at Mickey Tettleton, it reminds me of my former hitting coach Ted Kluszewski. He said that if guys stood upright, they were high ball hitters, and if they squatted or crouched, they were low ball hitters.
Tettleton hit a high ball, and it's taken in by McGriff on a nice basket catch just in front of the seats. Ripken still at first now with 1 out.
As you see Fred McGriff there find himself, find the stands. He's running over there on that warning track, which is rubber. As you see Mickey react, I felt that way about 4,500 times. Not that I hit that many pop-ups, but I toted the lumber back a few times.
Now Randy Milligan, who has walked 3 times. Blue Jay pitchers have walked 5. Milligan has drawn 3 of those 5 walks, and he looks at another ball low.
Well, young hitters should watch Randy Milligan. Very patient, very relaxed at the plate, does not jump out on that left side. Keeps his weight back over his right side, his right foot, and as a result gets a good look at the ball.
Good popping fastball from Wells. Dwayne Ward is warming up in the Toronto bullpen. With Wells, Ward, and Henke, Cito Gaston has 3 hard throwers who can close out a ball game. And they each have at least 1 save. Wells, as a matter of fact, has 2 saves to lead the staff, and he has equaled his total of last season already. Henke and Ward with 1 each. Cito Gaston said it's not really bullpen by committee as far as closing ball games is concerned, that Henke really is the main man, but Henke's not able. Wells and Ward certainly are. In the air to right, but playable for Glenn Allen Hill, who makes the catch. 2 outs, and Ripken again back to first. We're in the 8th inning. The Orioles trail 4-2. And that'll bring up Joe Orsulak for the 2nd time. He came on as a pinch hitter for Mike Devereaux in the 6th. Picked up an RBI as he reached on a fielder's choice ground ball. His 2nd RBI of the season. To left field, George Bell. And the Orioles fail to capitalize on the leadoff single by Cal Ripken in the 8th. Through 7.5 at the Skydome. 4-2 Toronto. Tonight's storyline from Toronto, the starters Ballard and Flanagan. Certainly Flanagan fared much better than his counterpart Jeff Ballard. And the Blue Jays have done it with a long ball. Solo home runs by Borders and Gruber and a 2-run shot by Junior Felix. 4-2 as we go to the bottom of the 8th. Brian Holton has worked 2 shutout innings since coming on for Ballard. And his first pitch to Kelly Gruber, a strike on the outside part of the plate. Kelly hit a solo home run in the 4th off Ballard and singled as the first man to face Holton in the 6th. That's the only hit Brian Holton has given up in his 2 innings.
And Holton's starting to get better command of that fastball. Starting to find the corners of the plate.
Al Jackson, the pitching coach for the Orioles, made an interesting point to us before the game. Much was said about starting pitchers getting ready for the season with the shortened spring training. But Al said he thought it was a lot easier for starting pitchers to get ready. They went out there regularly. They would pitch as many innings as they could. But it was tougher to get innings down in spring training for guys like Brian Holton and Joe Price and the rest of the Oriole relief corps with a limited number of games. Holton misses with a breaking ball. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
He sure did, Sean. And what he meant by that is the starters are going to throw every 4th or 5th day. The short men are going to get their innings in, but the middle guys, the middle men in the middle of that bullpen out there, just didn't have the opportunity to get innings in.
Very high to left field. Bradley with the catch, about 7 or 8 feet in fair territory. Coming up following our ball game, most of the country will see the Oakland Athletics against the California Angels. Chris Berman and Tommy Hutton are standing by to bring you all the action of that one. The Athletics hoping that they are on their way to their 3rd consecutive American League title. And the California Angels trying to get back to postseason play. And next Tuesday night at 7:30 Eastern Time, our game will feature the California Angels in action against the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park. A little bit of a contrast there in starting pitching. The Angels seem to have one of the most solid starting pitching staffs in all of baseball. The Boston Red Sox, as yesterday's 18-0 defeat at the hands of Milwaukee Brewers proves, are in desperate need of pitching help. Holton wants a new baseball, and he's not wearing a happy expression. I don't know if he's complaining about George Bell, who asked to look at the ball, or if he's annoyed with umpire Al Clark.
Well, I think he's probably more annoyed at George Bell. He throws a good breaking ball for a strike the first pitch. George Bell turns around and just lets Al Clark know that he thought the ball may have been inside, and pitchers don't like that. They want all that play.
1-2 to George, who's 0 for 3. He'll be followed by Fred McGriff.
You have some guys in baseball that if they don't swing at it, they think the umpire should call it a ball.
Bill Ripken had Bell played perfectly as he was shading up the middle. George is now 0 for 4. That's the 2nd out of the 8th. The bases are empty. Toronto leads 4-2.
For Brian Holton, as you look at Billy Ripken there, Brian Holton showing now why he was so effective as a Dodger spot starter and setup man. In 1988, he was 73 with a 1.70 earned run average for the Dodgers. And in 1983, he had that Tommy John surgery where they took a ligament out of his right wrist and put it to his elbow. So it's pretty amazing to see a guy throwing that breaking ball that sharply with that elbow in the Tommy John surgery.
With Fred McGriff at the plate, 0 for 2 with an intentional walk. The Orioles are back into the pronounced shift. Shortstop Cal Ripken on the 2nd base side of the bag. The 3rd baseman Worthington playing where Ripken normally would be. There's another look at the shift.
Tell you one thing, they don't believe that he's going to hit the ball on the ground the other way. That was a changeup that Holton threw away from him, just daring him to pull the ball. Here's another fastball away. But they know that if he hits the ball the other way, he is going to hit that ball in the air most probably. Another fastball away.
And a good pitch, knee high from Brian Holton, who has retired 4 in a row. 2 balls and 2 strikes, and out of the bullpen, the ace of the Orioles relief corps, Greg Olson, is warming up. Joe Price, for the moment, just standing and watching. He's a lefty. And Holton has fallen into a full count with Fred McGriff, who's a very selective hitter at the plate. Walked 119 times last year. That's ball 4. Fred walks for the 2nd time tonight, although the other walk was an intentional free pass.
to explain a little bit about those pitching charts and fielding charts that we mentioned earlier, during the course of the season, they have a scout or a designated player that charts every ground ball and fly ball hit, the direction it's hit, and the pitch that it's hit off of. And in those meetings, they chart it, and obviously, Fred McGriff hits all those ground balls to the right side. As we see, they're playing basically straight away here for Glenn Allen Hill. You see Frank Robinson there along with Tom McGraw, the hitting coach. No, that's Al Jackson, the pitching coach.
Count of 1-0 to Hill, who's 0 for 3 tonight. That's a line drive off the glove of Cal Ripken and in a shallow left center. McGriff heads for third. He'll get there safely as the throw comes into second. And a 2-out threat for the Blue Jays in the 8th inning as Glenn Allen Hill picks up his first base hit of the night. Second hit given up by Holton in his 2 2/3 innings. Toronto now has 7 base hits. And here's Greg Myers, who came up as a pinch hitter with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the 6th, and swung at the first pitch he saw from Holton. Popped out to the catcher Tettleton in foul ground. Fastball for strike 1. The Orioles in the top of the 9th have the bottom third of their order scheduled up. Worthington, Melvin, and Billy Ripken. Toronto trying to add to a 4-2 lead in the bottom of the 8th. Count is 1-1 to Greg Myers.
Well, I don't know what Phil Bradley knows that we don't know, but he's out there about 250 feet from home plate. Left field, playing very, very shallow on Greg Myers. If he hits anything hard out there, he'll have no chance to go back and get it.
Hits it hard to center. A base hit. And an RBI for Myers. As McGriff scored, Hill stopped at second. And a big run sent across the plate by the Blue Jays as they put the 2-out rally together, and Holton really has to blame himself. He got started with the 2-out walk to McGriff.
Well, he did, and 2-out base hits are big, big pluses for ball clubs. You look over the course of the season, as you see this pitch from Holton, a fastball out over the plate. Greg Myers just keeps his head right on top of that ball and hits a line shot in the center field. But those 2-out RBIs make a major difference.
Second RBI of the year for Greg Myers. 5-2 Toronto. And the Blue Jays have runners at first and second with 2 outs for Manny Lee. 6th batter of the inning. Takes a curveball and almost bounced into the glove of Tettleton, but it came in at enough of an arc to get a strike call from Al Clark. Manny's bounced out twice. Last time up against Holton, he struck out swinging. Check swing, and he got a piece of it. 0-2. Low and away. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Blue Jays eyeing their 5th win in their last 6 ball games. They're 5-3 for the year. The Orioles 2-4. That's a shot over the leap of Ripken. It'll plate another run. Hill's on to score. 6-2 Toronto. Myers stopped at second. Manny Lee picked up his 3rd RBI of the year, and Frank Robinson is out to the mound. A walk and then 3 straight hits after Holton had retired the first 2 hitters in this inning.
Well, the thing about that, Holton starts him off with 2 breaking balls that just lock Manning Lee up. Manning Lee, usually a first ball fastball hitter, tough time with off-speed pitches. Comes back with a fastball away, then comes back with a fastball that's down. But Manning Lee loves the fastball. Look at this, a fastball down after throwing really down. He went down. That's a good piece of hitting right there. I thought that ball was more up in the strike zone, but he just hit a good pitch. That ball was down and moving away. But that's what happens too. You see a lot of breaking balls with 2 strikes. You think, look away, fight off the fastball. He throws him a real nasty pitch down there, and he hit it out there to left center field.
55 pitches for Brian Holton, who could well be tiring. He pitched just an inning and 2/3 this season, over 2 outings coming into tonight, and didn't get as much work in spring training as he would like. But he'll stay in to face Junior Felix, who lifts a pop-up straight back and out of play. Following our ball game, we'll go to Anaheim Stadium as the California Angels play host the defending world champion Oakland Athletics.
There you see the wide open stance.
Junior swings and misses, strike 2. The runners for the Toronto Blue Jays: Greg Myers at second and Manny Lee at first, with 2 outs in the 8th. Blue Jays had scored 2 runs here in the 8th after the first 2 men were retired by Holton. Little chopper, tough play. Milligan to Holton. Safe at first is Felix. Couldn't quite tell from this angle if Felix beat Holton to the bag or if Holton missed the bag.
I just think he beat the play. It just looked like to me he beat the play. Holton got to the bag, and it looks like to me he just beat the play. He got a part of the bag, but Junior Felix with that tremendous speed.
That loads the bases. Infield hit, and now 10 hits for the Blue Jays. 4 in a row. And Frank Robinson will stay with Holton to face Tony Fernandez, the switch hitter, who's 0 for 3 with a walk. A shot, a fair ball down the right field line. Myers is in, Lee is in, Felix will be held. 2-run score, and the Blue Jays have blown it wide open. It's 8-2 Toronto. Brian Holton looks real tired to me. Pitches coming up.
Well, he's starting to go to that fastball again, and if he's not making hitters look for that breaking ball, he gets in trouble. Here's a fastball, as you see, right down the middle of the plate. We talked earlier how he had to locate his fastball, but anytime you throw the ball, as we said before, right there in the middle of that plate, it's going to get hit hard somewhere. Somebody may catch it, but they're going to hit it hard. And I agree with you. He's starting to get tired. He's labored out there. Basically, he's a one-time around the lineup type pitcher, and you start getting him out there more than 2 or 3 innings, and starts getting in trouble.
Mookie Wilson is the 9th batter of the inning. 6 straight men have reached base, and Joe Price could certainly use the work. We saw him warming up in the bullpen. You can understand that Frank Robinson would not want to use his ace, Greg Olson, trailing now by 6 runs, but talking with Joe Price before the game, he said all he needs is a few innings, and he'd feel a lot better. And perhaps Holton needs the work too, and that's why they're staying with him as he moves past 60 pitches.
Well, that's been one problem with the Orioles. They've been in a lot of ball games, but they have not been able to get to their stopper, Greg Olson. Frank Robinson doesn't get Olson in the game, a lot like Tony La Russa uses Eckersley until there's a win situation.
A strike. 3 balls and 1 strike to Mookie, who's 1 for 4 with a double. 8-2 Toronto. 11 hits for the Blue Jays, 6 for the Orioles. Milligan in the hole to Holton. And the inning finally comes to an end for Bryant, who had been cruising along until the 2-out rally by Toronto. 4 runs in the 8th. It's now a 6-run Blue Jay lead. With Ray Knight, Sean McDonough at the Skydome in Toronto, Ontario. Blue Jays broke the ball game open with 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th inning. They put 4 runs on the board against Brian Holton. And to close out the ball game, Cito Gaston has gone back to the bullpen for 25-year-old right-hander and a hard thrower, Dwayne Ward.
You're not kidding. Possesses a great fastball. They've clocked him up to 97 miles an hour, and it's not straight. The ball moves in. He can cut it a little bit. Has a real hard slider. Led the American League relievers last year with 122 Ks and 114 innings shown. So he's the type of guy that is suited for the closer job and has done a tremendous job for him. Has a penchant to be wild every once in a while. Walked 58 also in those 114 innings. But he's a total power pitcher.
Cito Gaston, as we said, has a very capable bullpen. And he's impressed with the job that Wells, Ward, and Hankey have all done with the limited spring training. Bullpen has been terrific. 4 saves and as many opportunities for Toronto.
You'll notice on the center field camera how much his fastball moves. A lot of times you can see the movement on the slider and the curveball, but when he gets a little bit on top of this fastball, watch how it runs into the right-handed hitter.
Ward working to Worthington, who pulls it foul, and it did indeed run into the right-handed hitter. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Bob Melvin scheduled to follow Craig Worthington, and then Billy Ripken. Struck him out with the pitch low and away. Worthington will finish the night in all likelihood 1 for 3.
One thing you do as a hitter when they bust you inside with those hard sinkers, you try to do something to compensate, and they come back with that nasty slider. The ball was down and away, but Craig Worthington just remembered that hard sinker in on his fist. It's a tough combination. A right-hander sinks and runs that ball in and has that tight slider.
Melvin, fastball at the knees, strike 1. Bob Melvin's 1 for 3 tonight with a single to left back in the 5th. That came against the starter, Mike Flanagan, who's in line to pick up his 2nd win of the year against no defeats. Jeff Ballard is the pitcher of record for Baltimore. He would fall to 0-2 unless the Orioles can do something about this 6-run deficit with 1 out and the bases empty at the top of the 9th.
We'll go with another slider. No, that was a fastball that he started on the outside part of the plate.
Dwayne Ward's 2-1 on the ground. Manny Lee went to 2 Ds. 2 outs. Orioles down to their final out. Now Billy Ripken, 1 for 3 with an infield single his first time up. Outside corner for a strike. Up the middle, Fernandez, and that's it. The Toronto Blue Jays have won 5 of their last 6 ball games. They go to 6-3 on the year, while the Baltimore Orioles fall to 2-5. The final score, 8-2 in favor of Toronto. Winning pitcher Flanagan 2-0, the loser Ballard 0-2. Blue Jays did it with a long ball. Solo home runs from Kelly Gruber and Pat Borders, and a 2-run shot by Junior Felix. Coming up next on ESPN's Baseball Tonight, the second half of our Tuesday night doubleheader from Anaheim Stadium In Anaheim, California, the California Angels play host to the Oakland Athletics. Chris Berman and Tommy Hutton standing by for that one. Now for Ray Knight, Sean McDonough saying so long from the Skydome in Toronto. Back to our Baseball Tonight studios and John Saunders.